Hello and welcome to the Latah Valley Fiber Co podcast. My name is Tiffany. Thank you so much for joining me today. I have a finished object to show you as well as a couple works in progress. So let's get started. You can check out my shop at latahvalleyfiberco.etsy.com. You can see me on Instagram at Latah Valley Fiber Co. And if you'd like to direct message me, lvfiberco@gmail.com. And if you like this video, please consider subscribing. So it is March and I've finished a few items, and then I spent probably 2 days trying to figure out what I wanted to cast on next. So I do have that to show you. Let's first talk about my finished object and what I'm wearing. This is the Magnolia Bloom by Camilla. I used my own hand-dyed yarn in the Booth colorway. This is a DK weight yarn, and then I used a mohair to go over the top of it. And I did start out here at the collar with a 6mm needle. The way that Camilla has you do the collar is you knit double the length, then fold it over. You knit the cast-on edge and the edge you're working on together, and then you change needle size and start working on the yoke. So that's what I did. I knit what was recommended for the length of the body as well as the sleeves, and then pre-blocking I tried it on and I found that the body was a little short. So I pulled out the ribbing and then knit 3 more inches, I believe, before casting on or starting the ribbing again and then binding off. So that's the only change that I did for the pattern. Also, I just went with the length that they had you do the sleeves because sometimes I do like the sleeve to come all the way down, but it's not very functional. You know, the sleeves can kind of get in the way. So I do like the shorter sleeves, which are nice. Oh, I did do a different sleeve. There are decreases in the sleeve. I didn't do any because I have bigger arms anyway, and so I felt like the stitches were nice. And then right at the end, I did some decreases to kind of get down to the as many stitches as she called for in the pattern before starting the ribbing. So I guess I did do a couple other modifications. So this I started on January 22nd and I finished it on March 9th. So this is the second Magnolia Bloom that I've done, and this one fits a lot better. So I learned a lot. In fact, it's very comfortable. Okay, the next finished object, which I don't have here to show you now, was a pair of socks that I made for my mother-in-law. And she, I've already given them to her. So I'll put a picture in here and we'll talk about them. They are a pair of Shorty Socks in a black colorway that I dyed up for March. Let's see, fingering weight yarn, sock yarn. They are Shorties. She wanted a scalloped cuff at the top, and so that's what I did. I did a picot, and I just actually, I went onto YouTube. YouTube has everything. I went onto YouTube to figure out how to do that, and I will maybe link that video in the description down below, so do check that out. Otherwise, everything else is just a basic vanilla Shorty sock. I used 2.25mm needles, DPNs, and I cast on 64 stitches. Then, yeah, she did say that these socks fit better than the previous two that I've knit her, which I did find interesting because the first sock that I did, the heel flap, I only did at 2 inches. And I noticed right away at Christmas when she pulled them on that the sock cuff sat like this. So this is her heel. It was down towards her heel. And I thought, oh, that's going to cause problems. You know, she'll want to keep pulling them up and they won't want to stay. So then the second pair that I knit her, I knit the heel flap at 2.5 inches. And it fit way better, but she said that it also doesn't stay up. So this pair, I had knit it the same as the second pair that I had knit her. The only difference is the cuff is not a 2x2 rib. So that could be beneficial to know. I might just do this, so she wants another pair, and it could be that I would just need to do the picot cuff again instead of a 2x2 rib. So I'll keep that in mind. Okay, so those I started February 28th and I finished them March 12th. Then I like to have a pair of socks on the go all the time, because they're really easy to work on if, you know, you've got other things going on or you're traveling. They're really easy to work on. So I did cast on another pair of leg warmers. They're not socks, they're leg warmers, but they're very similar to socks. These are, there's no pattern. I just cast on 72 stitches, did a 2x2 rib, cuff for I think 3 inches. Yes. And then I cast on 72 stitches. So this will be for a guy. And this guy in particular is my dad. So last year I had knit him a pair of leg warmers. And I was over there a couple weeks ago and I asked him for his knit items, socks that I had knit him, so that I could repair them. I'd brought my kit and everything. Well, he brought those out and they had felted and shrunk. So they were, you know, they were like this, pretty long, you know. But they shrunk and, yeah. So basically there were ankle warmers is what he said. So I'm like, okay, I will make a note to make him another pair. So I am hoping that these are long enough. I didn't ask for his measurements or anything like that. This is sock yarn, so it won't shrink like the previous, I think it was alpaca and wool. So it shrunk and felted at some point. This won't do that. The cuff is the same at each end, and I think I did 3 inches, and then I did a 2x2 for the cuff, and then for the leg I also did a rib, but I did 3 knit stitches and 1 purl. So it'll be snug when it needs to be snug and loose when it needs to be loose. So I have one completed and I've got the other one here started. I've done the cuff and I'm working on the leg part. I am using a colorway that I had dyed for a previous project and ended up only needing 1 skein. So this isn't a colorway that I carry in my shop. It was specifically for a project. So the knee-high leg warmer, it has no pattern. I just did it myself. I knit enough pairs of socks. I kind of know the general idea. I did use 2.25 millimeter needles, and the leg, the leg from, not the cuff, but the leg to this cuff is 9 inches. So should be a good size for my dad. His birthday is also coming up next month, so I should have these done for that as well. So I started those on March 13th. Okay, let's talk about the dandelion dress, because I'm getting to the point where, so this is the second dandelion dress that I've done, and I'm getting to the point where you do a little hem at the bottom, and I'm to the point that I needed to add another ball of yarn. So that's where I'm at. I haven't quite added it yet. This second dandelion dress is let's see. The pattern is by Petite Knit. The yarn that I'm using is Daisy Sweets in fingering, my fingering sock base. The needles I used are the 2.75 millimeter, and I'm doing them on a circular needle here. They say you can go up in size for your cord. I'm not going to do that because it's actually easier for me to have them all bunched and I can just scurry right along there. I cast on for the size 3, the 4th size, which is 3/4, and I cast on the 84 stitches. Now you cast on up here and do increases through the yoke part, as well as you're building up this little keyhole where I'll put a button. Let's see, I'm almost to the point where, actually, it doesn't look like it. This doesn't look long enough. So there is a section here where you're not building, I don't think, as much. Each time you do the design or the dandelion, you're increasing 2 stitches per dandelion, I think. And so it kind of goes out in an A shape, a line dress actually. And somewhere along there, I think you stop doing that. Although I'm not there yet, so I'm not 100% sure on that. But this is a fun pattern to do. It's really hard in fingering weight yarn because it's so small and a lot of stitches. I think I'm at 300 stitches already, so that's a lot in one round on small needles, but it's fun to do. So I'm continually working on that. And yeah, let's see. Okay. The next project that I have is, it's going to be a blanket, and I really struggled with what to do. Last year I knit a temperature blanket, and so I bought all this yarn. I ended up using more of some and less of others, and I had full skeins left over. So I decided, well, I'll do another blanket, but I didn't want to do the same that I had done previously. So I'm just going, I did a lot of research, and I found one by Purl Soho. The designer is Jake Canton, and it's called the Mitered Corner Blanket. And basically you start, let's see, I actually started down here with this color. You start and you do this mitered square, and then you bind off, and then you add this to the top, and you keep going for 16 squares. And then once you've done the 16 squares, you build on it this way. So I think I'm at 8 squares. And the yarn that I'm using is the same yarn I used in my temperature blanket. It's the Woodland Tweed by KnitPicks. And I have a lot of this color, actually. I have 2 full skeins and almost another full skein. So the blanket will be mostly this color with I have a skein of this, and then one other skein that's kind of a different, it's a bluish green. So I'm going to add that in as well, and then go from there. So that will be just probably the size. I think I cast on the small. Oh, there are some different things that I did. Okay, so their pattern calls for fingering weight cotton yarn, and you use 2 strands of the fingering weight, so that would be a DK, approximately, depending on if it was a light fingering or a heavier fingering. So approximately a DK. Well, the Woodland Tweed is worsted. So and it's wool. It's alpaca and wool. So I'm not using what they call for, and I'm not using the weight of yarn. But blankets are really easy. It's not really going to matter. It might be, so their blanket would be a baby blanket. Mine will likely be a lap blanket, given the size. Although this is a 3x3. Well, it's slightly over, like 3 1/4 square. So it'll be close to the baby blanket that they have. Yeah. I am using a 4mm needle, and it's real easy. You know, I'm using DPN, so you cast on, and yeah, it's a fun pattern. So, and they're really easy to do. Like, this is almost easier to pick up than a sock to do, because it's just a little square. I would imagine that as the blanket gets bigger, it's going to get a little harder and a little more fiddly. But right now I just have a strip. So it's really easy to add, you know, take 30 minutes and add a square. So that's my next blanket project. I swore that I would not do another blanket for a while, and I guess technically it's been 3 months. Well, no, because I finished my other blanket a little early. So, might be 6 months now. So that's a fair enough of time. I did cast that on the 18th. And yeah, so I'll just continue working on that. I already have the yarn. I'm just planning to go until I don't have any more of the Woodland Tweed. And I forgot to say, that yarn is by KnitPicks. All right, my next project and final one for this episode is another pattern by Purl Soho. It's by Hiromi Glover, and it's called the This and That Shawls. There's 2 options in this pattern. I am doing the second option, which has, and I'll post pictures here, it has a seam up the middle of the shawl, whereas the first shawl in this option, it builds differently, so you don't have the seam. Okay, I am using my own hand-dyed yarn in bulky. I used to carry this in the shop, but it wasn't a seller, so I pulled it and I'm using it for my own projects. This is what I have so far, and I think that it goes like this. Okay, and then you keep building it down until it gets to a V, and then you bind off. This will have 2 colors. This one I wanted a little bit closer to my face, and then I'm going to do a lighter color at the bottom. It's kind of a tan color. It goes really well with this, so I've already matched that. The needle size I'm using is 5.5mm, which I think is a 9. Yeah, and I am following the pattern. So you cast on up here. Sorry. You cast on up here, and you do some knitting into the side. Anyway, I've not done that before, and it was a little fiddly. You can kind of see that this is a little different. The lines go down and then they go across like this. So I think it's pretty and it'll be fun. This is bulky, so it'll be fairly warm for next winter. I haven't decided yet if I'm keeping this one or gifting it. So there's that. We'll see how it turns out. It's a really fun color. I like this color a lot. So again, that's the this or that shawl. And there's two options when you check out the pattern. Oh, I forgot to say that these last two patterns are by Purl Soho, and they're on their free pattern website. So if you're interested in that, they have a lot of fun classic looking patterns. And actually a lot of their patterns look really put together and they're easy to read. So I do recommend them if you want to. And they have all kinds of different ones. They even have sweaters that are free on there. So lots of hats, lots of mittens, some socks, lots of blankets, and shawls, and then cowls. There was one that I was debating before I did this, and it was a, what do you call it? A poncho. But it was a poncho that you could rotate, and it had different lengths. So very versatile, I thought. So that might be a pattern, although it was fingering weight, I think, or maybe sport weight. I'm not sure. But anyway, all right, that's all I have for you today. I hope that was enjoyable for you all. If you're interested in listing down below what you have been working on, I'd love to hear it. I heard from Carrie last month or 2 weeks ago, and she was working on a pair of socks. So that's really fun to hear what you guys are working on. So stay well, and I will see you in a couple of weeks with another episode. Happy knitting.